Hello, my friends. Katie Day with the Move Me to Texas team here with another episode of the Real Advice podcast. I am excited to welcome this week's guest to the show. He is a native of Oklahoma who now calls the great state of Colorado home. He runs an amazing real estate team, and he's an awesome realtor, which stemmed from him initially purchasing an investment property many, many years ago when he was 25. He is a awesome friend, and I am excited to welcome my boy JT Jordan Terrell to the podcast. What's going on, man?
Oh, thank you for the intro. Going really well. Just closing out the year. It's almost Christmas time, but it's been a really good year overall.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm excited to dig in with you because, in the time where we've gotten to know each other, and then especially in this past year, just in talking and kind of catching up in business and stuff like that, like your group has had a very strong year in what has been a down market for many. And so, for people listening to this, it's probably going to be like January-ish timeframe, early beginning of the next new year. So I'd really like to kind of dig into some of the things that y'all have done
Sure.
to, remain, a top team in Colorado. But before we dig into all of that, I'd like to kind of get started. For people that don't know you, how did you get into real estate in the beginning?
Yeah. So I had my background originally, Katie. I worked actually for the church. I was like a youth pastor for years, and somewhere along the path of that, I realized I wasn't really making any money because I worked at a church, and the churches don't pay very much. So I had a friend give me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
And I read it, and it made a lot of sense to me. And so I literally within 2 months of finishing the book, I went and bought an investment property. I put my family's home on the rental market, and I went and bought a foreclosure and moved my family into the foreclosure. And that began like an investment journey. And so 10 years, about 6-7 years later, I owned a bunch of property because I just kind of did the game. And I found myself in a position where I was making as much money from my investments as I was my job at the church.
Yeah.
And so I found myself in this position where I was like, I can kind of do whatever I want. Like, I don't have to do, I can do anything. I can stay here. I can do this other, I can pursue real estate. I can become like a full-time investor and I just started digging deep, and I ultimately felt like led to make a jump. And so I transitioned out of that world and thought I was going to be a full-time investor. But then I realized that you need money to be an investor.
That does tend to go hand in hand. You're correct there.
So I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll sell houses, and so I can save up some money, and then I'll invest. And that phrase people say, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
Well, my whole life I've been like kind of leading groups and gathering people and somehow just kind of organizing groups of people. And whether it was like in middle school or high school or even with the church. And so next thing I know, I have a bunch of people like that are like wanting to join me in real estate. And they're like, hey, can we be on your team? And I'm like, yeah.
My what?
I mean, it wasn't that organic, but like, I mean, there was intention around it, like just the way I operate. Like, I think that everything should be done in groups of people. Like, I don't think in anything should be accomplished in isolation. Like, even a tennis player, although it's a single player sport, you have coaches and you have traders and you have all these other people that are helping you. Right. And so I think through that lens.
Yeah.
And so I don't really, when I got into real estate, I didn't understand the concept of being a solo producer.
For sure.
And like somehow you're the administrator, you're the photographer, the sign installer, like all the different jobs. I was like, there's no way I can be good at all these things. So
yeah,
I accidentally
I have seen you put a sign in the ground, and you're pretty good at that though. So, I don't know if you delegate that out or not, but
actually, to be honest, I don't think I've ever installed a sign. Ever. Once.
Something you delegated out really early on in the business. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how many people in our kind of like group of real estate friends were in some sort of like ministry and church world. Um,
Yeah.
that you know, as we have more conversations, yeah, so it's just interesting. Okay, so you got into it. How many kids did you have at the time when you decided to buy their first investment property?
The first one I had two.
Okay, all right,
I had two kids, and we've had one more since.
yeah,
And I remember that vividly because when we moved into the foreclosure, I had this idea one day that like we need to start the renovation process. And I was like,
yeah,
I think I can sell like the appliances and, and we'll buy some new appliances. And then I was like, I think I can sell the cabinets. So I posted a picture of my kitchen on Craigslist.
yeah,
And that day, people came over with like drills and took all of our cabinets and all of our appliances and gave me like $3,000 or $4,000.
yeah,
And then my wife came home and she was pregnant with our third.
and everything in the kitchen was gone.
Yeah, there was no kitchen.
Oh my god, Jordan.
And she's like super mad at me, which
Uh,
looking back, like it
Clearly,
makes sense. But
yeah.
at the time I was like, "Oof."
Look at all this money.
I was like, we have microwaves and like we can do whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She's literally like, I need a kitchen. I'm going to my parents' house and let me know when we're back up running.
You like your solution was like having a microwave on like a cardboard box. You're like, but we can still heat up our food, babe. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know why
yeah.
you're.
It was you know how things sometimes seem like a good idea at the time. Yeah.
No, I'm sure. One, the moving of into the foreclosure seemed like a good idea at the time. Two, the selling of. So I get it, but we don't need to go down that path. We're not here to give bad marriage and real estate advice to those listening, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so coming into real estate, and like the residential sales world of things, as you started to get your license and do deals, like you said, the team construct and concept started off pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. Well, and I've said this to people all the time. Like I approached real estate from I'm a builder. Like if I'm going to build something, like I'm going to take like the approach of like, all right, like what's the strategy? What's the blueprint need to be like, where's the architect? Let's like draw this whole thing up. What's our strategy? And what are the steps that we need to take? And like, who's the model like that we're kind of following and who's the coach and like, you don't, and I've said this analogy before, but if you were going to go start a coffee shop, you would go get a loan and you would go lease a space and then you would order a bunch of tables and chairs and probably buy a barista thing and a cash register. And then you'd probably hire people and then you would order cups that are branded and have a for sale sign or like open sign, not for sale sign, but open sign. And then you're going to advertise and try to get all these people for this grand opening. And then you hope you haven't even made $1 yet.
Yeah.
And then you hope that somebody shows up and drinks a cup of coffee and comes back and tells their friends. So the fact that real estate agents think they can somehow create a business that will make them way more money than a coffee shop ever would without the same kind of planning and strategy, like didn't make sense to me. So when I started, I was kind of like, all right, I need an assistant. I need a coach. I need a website. I need a brand. I need a system. And so I built all of that day one. Like I started building that day one and I closed my first So I was 4 months in and probably $40,000 in debt before I closed my first property.
Okay, so that's where I was going to go with kind of my next line of questioning. And so I think for many, right, like real estate is a second or a third or a fourth or whatever career, right? And so most of the time when someone's making the jump into real estate, like they don't have the savings, right? And you just said 40 grand in debt. Like if someone was a newer agent and like all of the things you just named, right? Like having an assistant, having a coach, having systems, having, you know, a website, like if they don't have the budget for that, like how do you help agents, you know, that you coach and mentor and things like that, like kind of prioritize what they should be doing to make this more of a business, right? Because like, you know, I don't recommend people just go charge everything on a credit card and hope for the best, right? Like there should be some priority and responsibility with your money.
Right.
How do you help them to kind of determine what comes first or how they can make their real estate, you know, hobby more of a career?
Right. So I think there's different types of people. So like
Yeah.
if someone comes to me and they say, all right, I'm jumping into real estate, what do I do first? And I'm going to say, how much money do you have to live every month?
Yeah.
Like, what do you need? Not what do you want? What do you need? Like, what's your monthly nut? Like to pay all your bills and like eat food. I'm not talking about nice food, but like keep the body running, keep the body
Yeah.
warm.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you need? And so let's say they say 5,000. And then my next question is like, okay, do you have any savings? Like how many months could you go without making any money? And if they say, I got 20,000, okay, you have 4 months of runway. So then it becomes a process of like, can you do what it takes to extend that runway within
Yeah.
that 4 month period? And if they don't have any savings, then they have zero runway. And at that point, they have to stay in their current job and they have to somehow either start working real estate on the side to build a runway, or, I mean, there's no way. And it's really hard to get into real estate when you're working another job full time. So that's the hard jump. That's why you go, like, you want to find maybe a team to partner with, because they can give you the necessary things that you need to make that runway that you need really short.
Yeah.
Because it takes most agents 8-9 months to sell their first home. But if they have 4 or 5 months of runway, I'll go, hey, you just need to be okay with the fact that you're going to be spending money every month and you're not going to make it, but you need to use this time to like build the business,
Yeah.
structure it properly, hire a coach, have somebody that's like helping guide you. And the goal would be to start earning that money back. Well, my decision making when I hired an assistant was, okay, I'm going to pay you $20 an hour for 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
And so that, like, let's say the math on that is, I don't know, $200, $800 a month. I need to sell, to pay that for the year, I need to sell like one home. Okay. So one home pays for an assistant. Okay. I need a CRM and like a lead generation, like to generate leads, and it's going to cost 8,000. Okay. A half a home in our market pays
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
that. So I have to sell a half a home for that. And then I'm going to hire a coach and they're going to charge me 1,000 a month. So now I'm up to like 2.25 homes that I have to sell. So if I do these three things and I just get to 2.25, I'll be even.
Yeah.
Like that's how my mind works. So when I'm taking risk, I'm like, if I spend 40 grand, can I at least sell 3 homes or whatever the math is? And if I don't think that I can, then I won't do it.
How do you, because I mean, I think that that's easy for you to say, selling hundreds of homes a year, right? It's easy for you to say, like, in this point in your career. And obviously it was like a huge risk when you first started out. Um, how do you, or what advice would you give as far as like reevaluating those decisions, right? Because like we realtor math things all the time. Like when I'm like, oh, this costs X thousands of dollars. I just need to sell a house. Oh, you just need to sell a house. But at a certain point, it's like you've over leveraged yourself, right? The
Totally.
realtor math only goes so far. So how frequently do you like evaluate what you guys are spending money on, or especially when you were first starting out? Like how quickly did you ramp up having the assistant, having the coach, having the website and CRM? Like, how quickly did you ramp up, or how do you reevaluate what you're spending money on?
Well, at the beginning, like, and I'm probably not like the model citizen over here of like how to manage money, but my simple strategy was spend less than I make. And
That
like,
that's not dumb.
and so it's like, all right, if I'm going to spend this much, I have to make more than that.
Yeah.
And I want my bank account to grow.
Yeah.
And how much runway do I have if things go bad? Like if the market dries up or there's a war, I don't know, like something
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Like how much time do I have where my family's taken care of? So I'm always kind of keeping those things. Where it got to a point where I was like, man, my runway is so freaking long right now. Now it becomes like, what do I do from here? Like,
Yeah.
how do I strategize? Like, what kind of structure should I build here so this keeps going? But requires less of my energy, because I'm like working like a dog, right?
For
But I
sure.
don't want to have to run that hard. But early in the process, like, I mean, for me, it was pretty simple. It was pretty simple math. Like, I need this much to live,
Yeah.
pay for my family. I need this much to pay for my business. That means I need to make this much every month. And that was my
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's super simple. I think we overcomplicate things. But yeah, as you get more in savings and things like that, and as the business grows, right, like where you are today, the decisions aren't just, a couple $100 for this and a couple $100 for that.
Right.
One thing that you mentioned as far as someone newer getting into the business, like figuring out what they should be spending money on, was like potentially joining a team to have, more resources, or to have, some of that being paid for, or whatever it may be. What what advice would you give to an agent if they are currently looking to join a team, as far as like questions to ask, how to find a good team? Because like, I mean, we both know as team leaders, and we talk to a lot of team leaders, and we're both in, different coaching programs and stuff like that. Like, there's such a wide range of what people call a team, right?
Mhm.
What advice would you give to someone if they wanted to join a team?
I like to say the phrase, you can judge things by their fruit, right? Like you can go, is this a good tree or a bad tree? Well, this tree over here has like really good fruit. It's like producing lots of fruit. This
Mhm.
tree over here looks like there's no one there. There's no fruit. There's nothing happening over there. Well, it
Yeah.
must be a bad tree. Um, and so first thing is what's happening? Who are the people that are there? Who trusts this team leader? Like the team leader is very vital to understanding like the health of the organization. And you can understand the health of the organization by looking around the organization and going, man, there seems to be a lot of good culture here. Like, and so if you see good culture, then it's a good sign of good fruit. If the other question I would be asking is like, what's the attrition rate? Like, if there's 30 people in a room, you might go, wow, it's an amazing team. But if they all signed up 2 months ago, then we don't even know if it's amazing yet.
Yeah.
So you can go to a team that has 10 agents and like you find out that those 10 agents have been there for 5 years. Something's really healthy about that situation.
Yeah.
Um, so I think you got to look at those. And then ultimately, are you getting what you're spending in value? Meaning, if I'm going to, assuming that you want to get leads and like you're paying a split on those leads, but like let's say that your family calls you and says, like extended family calls you and says, hey, I want you to sell my house, and you're still on a split, so you're giving some of your commission of your family to this team leader. Are you getting a value exchange for that? Is that value considerable and worth it? And so there should be a level of value exchange. So whenever I'm asking for a split from my agents, I want to give them more value than they're giving me. Meaning, if they give me 5,000, I want to give them 6,000, because, and I'm not literally giving them 6,000, but can I give them six
Like, well,
thousand
this is
dollars?
this is a poor business decision.
Yeah, but can I give them six
Yeah.
thousand dollars of value
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
form of like, I mean, because my coaching could be part of that value. My office could be part of that value. If they were to go recreate this on their own, could I give them more value? Because if I'm giving them more value than they're giving me, they're always going to be in a position of like gratefulness.
Yeah.
But if I'm somehow giving them $1,000 of value, but they're giving me 5,000, then they're always going to be in a position of like resentment, and that's not a healthy situation. So I like to look at those three things. What are you spending? What are you getting? What's the health of the organization, and what's the attrition rate?
I like that. Yeah, and I think that oftentimes when people do look to leave a team, it's because what they're paying and what they feel the value is don't necessarily, or aren't necessarily, in alignment anymore.
Totally.
And it's, that's generally why, agents will leave a team, or will leave a group or something like that. Um, as far as team size, just for context, about how many agents do you have now?
We have 30 agents on the team, and we have 11 full-time staff and 9 VAs.
That's a lot of
So
support.
it's a lot of support. In fact, our support could handle a 65 agent team easily.
So
And
is
and it,
that part of your goal to, like, continue to scale it, or what's?
I like sometimes like you'll see companies like they make a profit and then they reinvest the profit back into the company.
Yeah.
Like, so that's all I'm doing. I keep on reinvesting back in the company, and I've focused heavily on systems and people. So I've now have this like structure of staff and people and systems, and and we're ready to grow. Like we're in a position to just like our goal for the first quarter is to add 15 agents to our 30 agent team.
How does, like, your current team feel about that? Like, are they out talking to other agents? They're like, "Oh, hey, I just talked to Michelle and she'd be a great fit for the team." or what's kind of their mindset around the team growth?
Well, it's a good question. And, I think Tom Ferry said it. I heard him say it on stage at a conference a few months ago, but he's like, if you're a team leader out there, you need to do one of two things. You need to get really, really big or really, really small. And what he means is if you're in that middle somewhere, you're spending so much stinking money to stay afloat that you can't handle a storm.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're really, really big, you can start weathering lots of things, or you get really small and like mighty and like lean and like powerful, and you can kind of be nimble and navigate anything. But you in the middle, like you're kind of hosed. And I agree with them. And so I have such amazing people on my staff that the only direction I want to go is to grow much bigger. And so the way that we're growing, a lot of teams will be centered on one person. It's this person in the middle, and then everyone's kind of built around them. Like
The Jordan show.
the Jordan show.
Yeah.
And if me wanting to grow my team from 30 to 45 is growing the Jordan show by 30 to 45, then they're going to have a hard time with it. But what I've made it is their show, and I'm trying to grow their show, meaning I'm rebranding my company, taking my name out of it, and I'm positioning my company to support them to grow whatever they want to grow. So if they want to grow a team, I'm going to help them grow a team. If they want to be a mega solo producer, I'm going to help them do that. If they want to not be on leads and have a better split structure, but just have leverage and coaching and structure and in culture, then I can give them that. I'm not trying to tell them what they should want. I'm trying to help them get what they want.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about team leaders, like typically you're attracting people that want to be like you. And so if they want to be like you, but you're not giving them a pathway to be like you, then they have to leave you to be you. So what I'm doing is I'm getting out of the way and going, here, let me help you not only be like me, I'm going to help you exceed me. Because if you're in a position to help people do greater than what you're doing, that's called legacy. Like you're like making an impact, and people are like building amazing things. So we're restructuring, we're rebranding right now. We're in the process. And so my agents are really seeing the growth as like their growth. Like we're creating like in financial structures, like a rev share structure within our team, where if they help you grow these agents on our team, they're going to get paid in perpetuity on the growth.
Yeah. When you say that, they're here because like there's something in you that they see that they want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have they seen you try to parallel park before?
Are we referring to an amazing parallel parking job I've done?
Jordan and I had lunch in Denver one day, and it took a very long time to find a parking spot. But
I don't remember this.
I wasn't hangry. It's fine. Not a big deal.
I think it was the Tesla. I let the Tesla do the parallel parking. Maybe
have they seen you try to follow a GPS? One thing that we've talked about previously that I think isn't as widely adopted and used as I think it should be is the concept of having like showing partners or having partner agents and things like that. And so, as you mentioned, like you're helping some of your agents to build out their own teams. You're helping some of your agents to be a mega solo producer and things like that. So like, I think partner agents are big on a big portion of that, right? Just like kind of high level, what are some of your tips if you're hiring someone to work with you? So say you are a solo agent, right? And you don't necessarily want to have a team, but you need some additional leverage. If I'm hiring a partner agent, like what tips or advice would you give me?
Okay, I'm gonna answer the question, but I'm gonna answer it by asking you a question. Katie, what do you think your greatest two attributes, gifts, strengths as a team leader is?
Oh, I thought you were in the hot seat, but
no, I'm just asking.
So like, two strengths as a team leader. I think, as far as in real estate and like doing real estate, like the problem solving side of real estate, right? As far as being like the team leader side of things, I think, helping people to do the things that they need to do to get to where they want to be.
But would you say you're super organized and structured and like an organizational leader, or
yeah, I mean, my disc is like CD, so I'm a pretty organized person.
Okay, so my is it's, what is it? DI, right? Like I'm hot 99D, 99I. I'm really good at with ideas, innovation, visionary stuff, and I'm really
Yep.
good at getting people on board with my ideas. I am a complete shit show when it comes to organizational like stuff. Like this morning, I was late to the meeting and I called Dave and I'm like, "Hey, I'm looking for my wallet. I don't even know where it is." And he's just not even phased by it at this point. He's just like, "What else did you lose this morning?" And
Did you even
and
need your wallet today?
and
I
my
don't
and my
know.
wife was like literally, it's like a like fire drill. It's like, all right, let's look at all the 17 places you usually leave things.
Yeah.
It's
What's in
probably in
your
one of
pants from
those.
yesterday? Yeah. Okay.
And but like I obviously I'm good at leading, but I'm really clear on what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And that is the answer to the question. If you know what you're really good at and you know what you're not good at, that is the key to building around yourself. Because if you're an agent on a team and you want to start kind of building a micro team, the number one thing you can do is understand what you're good at so that you can understand what you're not good at so that you can fill in the gap. And so like a lot of agents, they're salespeople
For sure.
and they hire like salespeople. They partner like
I like
salespeople.
you, so let's work together.
Yeah, I like you. You're awesome. Like let's partner up. And what they should be thinking like is hiring like a CEO. A
Yeah.
CEO fills positions and goes, "We need this type of person." And so, like a football coach, I need a kicker, I need a quarterback, I need a wide receiver. They're not going to go, "Everyone should be a quarterback." No, the team would get crushed.
Yeah.
Like they need the big guys, you know. Um, and so, I want our agents, if they're going to partner up or team up or build something, I want to help them like build around their strengths. So, uh, one of my agents, she's extremely administrative. So I'm
Hmm.
like, you need a bunch of salespeople.
Yeah.
And then I have another agent that's extremely sales oriented. I'm like, you need a bunch of admins.
Yeah.
and and so that would be the way I would coach it.
So for many agents, and I'm sure, well, actually, no, you weren't the one because you hired an assistant like day one that you had your real estate business. But like, most people are like, oh, well, like I don't want to hire or I don't want to use the marketing coordinator, or I don't want to hire the VA, or I don't want to hire the showing partner because no one does blank like me, right?
Mhm,
No one writes contracts like me. No one shows homes like me. No one does marketing pieces like me. Like I'm the best at everything, right?
mhm.
How do you like help someone along in the giving up control?
Um, well, I I think that the easiest process is going, all right, how much money did you make doing it your way? Well, first I say you can be right or you can be rich. Which one do you want to do? Okay. All right. So you want to be rich. Okay. So listen up. No, I asked them, how much money did you make? How many hours did you work? Can you work more hours? No. Well, what's your strategy on making more money then?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to sell bigger homes. Okay. Well, what's your strategy on selling bigger homes? Because if you figured it out, then I want to learn too. I'm taking notes. You're going to all of a sudden go from $500,000 average sales price to $1 million.
Yeah.
Like, so okay, so you can't sell more homes because you can't increase time. The only way to to increase time is through leverage.
Yeah.
The only way. And so we none of us get more time. So we have to buy back time. And here's the hard reality is that most agents are making 80% of their income with 20% of their time.
Yeah.
And so if you were just to hire out, let's say 40% of the time or 30% of the time. So now it's 50-50. Then you just doubled your income
Yeah.
just from a mathematician. So the question you asked is like, well, how do you do that when someone's like a 7 out of 10 then hire two. And now you have 14 to your
Yeah.
10.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like, and I often think, okay, if I'm a 10 out of 10 at this and they're only a 7, well, how do I get them to at least a 9? Like, and what I've learned is that most of those people end up doing it way better than I ever could have.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then they're the wrong hire.
I
And
love that.
so most of my staff they have so much job security because they know how horrible I am at their job. Like I can't do their job. And
Yeah.
So they know the value. The other thing I would coach somebody and say, hey, I have never hired someone where I didn't double my money on them. Like
Yeah.
if you have like a couple chips and you're in Vegas and you're sitting at and I'm like, hey, bet those 2 chips. I guarantee you'll end up with 4. I've just never hired someone where I haven't, like, if I'm paying them $60,000 a year, that I didn't make an additional 120 that year. Like
Yeah.
it without, and if that's not happening, then you're really bad at hiring. But anytime you increase your hands, it should increase your income.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, I just find a lot of agents, that I talk to just have that concern, right? Like in theory, I get it,
Totally.
but it's like pulling the trigger on something, so I normally am like, okay, can you afford 90 days of this? Can you afford, whatever it may be, right? Like it's not a $60,000 commitment, you
Well,
know?
yeah, Alex Hormozy, I thought he said something that was really brilliant. Like people are often scared, like our agents, like I'm like, hey, you should hire an assistant. And like they want like a personal assistant. I'm like, hire an assistant. And they're like, well, I don't want to have to guarantee their income. Like that's scary. Like I can't even guarantee that I'm going to sell a house every month to pay my own bills. And I'm like, okay. But I'm like, did you go to college? Well, yeah. So you went to school for 4 years and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars without making a dime, and you racked up all this debt, but you're not willing to take a bet on yourself and hire someone to assist you to increase your time. That makes 0 sense to me. Like, and Alex Hormozy said it all brilliantly. And I was like, that's a really good point. Like our entire American society is built on people going into debt, not making money to learn how to make money, but then they're not willing to hire and take risk when they actually are making money. It's fascinating.
Yeah. And then we get into real estate where you didn't need to go to college in the first
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
No, but I mean, like, I always just look at it of like, $60,000 seems like a lot of money, right? $100,000 seems like a lot of money, or whatever the expense may be. Even $10,000, like, say you're doing a VA or something like that, that seems like a lot of money. But if you're like, okay, I'm going to look at this for the quarter, and that's $2,500 for the quarter, like most people would be okay doing that. Right. And it's
Right.
like, okay, well, like, let's see how we can take your business from A to B in the next 3 or 4 or 5 months. And, is that worth $2,000 or $5,000 or something like that? And then
Mhm.
when you break it down like that, a lot of times people are like, oh, like I'm open to that. Right.
Right.
So
And it's another selling point for being on the team. It's like, well, if you don't want to do that, then join my team. I'll take the risk, and then you'll
yeah,
pay me more than you probably should, so that I can make a profit. Or you can take all the risk yourself and do your own thing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
but if you don't want to take the risk, then let me do it, and you'll pay for that. But you only pay for it if you close, and I'm going to help you close because I want to get paid.
yeah. Um, I want to switch gears a little bit from like the team and aspect of things and talk a little bit about collaboration.
Mhm.
One thing that I think, one of the many things, but one thing that I think that you're doing that's pretty cool is the like team leader mastermind. So, Jordan's based in the Denver area. And so you got together with some of the other top teams in Denver and said, hey, like, let's meet up on a regular basis and just kind of, collaborate, talk, learn, grow, things like that.
Yep.
Can you talk to me a little bit more kind of about the premise behind it and then what that looks like?
Yeah. The original goal was kind of twofold. One, it's kind of lonely at the top as a team leader. Like not, and I say at the top, not like I've arrived and way up here. It's,
The top of the mountain.
but like it's lonely in a team leader role because there's not a lot of team leaders, and so typically the team leaders aren't friends, and so you're just kind of by yourself, and you're like dealing with things, and it's hard. And you mastermind with people in other states and stuff and other markets, but like our market's different than their market, and so like we have different challenges. And so if it started with just going, I need mastermind, I need help. The other part of it was, have you ever noticed, or at least maybe this is just me, I'm weird. Typically, when I see someone that's successful, my first assumption is that they're an asshole. I don't know why. I'm like, gosh, they must be like stuck up and not generous and not willing to share anything. And they probably hate me and they're trying to beat me. And like, I have all these weird immediate thoughts. And then I'm like, there's no way they're that successful without being an incredibly kind, generous human being for the most part, like 90% of the time. So I really just came from a place of like, I bet these people are amazing. So what am I waiting on? Why don't I reach out to them and introduce myself, see if they want to grab coffee, and maybe we can start hanging out once a month.
Yeah.
And because I was intimidated by them and they were probably intimidated by me. And like, so therefore we didn't ever talk. And so I just had this concept of like, hey, what if we all got together, even though we're competitors, and helped each other and became friends? Would that somehow be a breath of fresh air? And so I sent out an email to like 10 of the top team leaders. And I was like kind of shocked. They were all like, oh my gosh, this is such a good idea. Thank you
Yeah.
for including me. And I'm like, oh, thank you for wanting to hang out with me. Like, I
Yeah.
thought you probably hate me somehow. Like, it's just a weird, like,
Those internal conversations though. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
I don't know why I would do that, but that's just what happens. And I
yeah.
think we just kind of stay in our lane, but it's been incredibly beautiful. We're all really good friends. And we share like there's chatter kind of always going on in these little, like our text groups. And, and we, one of the guys in our group is going through like a hard time with their health, and like, we're all supporting him.
Yeah.
And like kind of circling and seeing how we can support his family. And like, it's just like really cool. It's like, wow, like we're all a support system for each other and we're competing with each other. And I mean, I have somebody coming here in 30 minutes to meet with me because they're going through some hard stuff with their team and they just need someone to like cheer them up.
Yeah.
And so it's cool.
I think that's so cool. But it definitely is tough, like as a team leader, because it's like for challenges or for different things like that, like you can't go to your team and be like, oh man, like,
Right.
this is what's happening. Like some of those things obviously are things that you do discuss with the team, but like for some challenges and for some, brainstorming and masterminding, like you need someone that understands what you're going through, right? And
Totally.
so having people in your local market is really cool. I just think it's awesome because it's like too often people do consider other people in their market to be competitors, and while yeah, you guys could both walk into the same listing appointment and one of you is going to walk out with it, like we've all been able to coexist
Right.
and make money, and there's enough real estate sales going around, right, for everyone to make money and be successful.
Yeah.
So
There's so much marketplace, and even if we did compete for the listing and they won, I would probably be like, way to go. Like, good job. Like, you kicked my butt and I want to learn from you and figure out how you did that.
yeah,
Cause,
yeah.
and it is what it is. Like, but I would, if you're a team leader and you're listening to this is, I would encourage you to do it. It's been a really good move. And so we started naturally. Like, I didn't want to send I didn't want to send a bunch of emails to like the female team leaders of Denver. It's like Jordan and all the female team leaders. So I started with guys. So, and it wasn't like, how do I separate the guys and the girls? I just naturally started there. And then recently we opened it up. And so we just invited a bunch of, handful of the female team leaders that are badasses.
Yeah.
And so they just became part of the group. And so like, there's this cool new dynamic happening,
Yeah.
that I love and we needed, because let's just be honest, like women dominate real estate business for the most part. Right. And so having their perspective and having their knowledge in the room is like really helpful for all of us. But that just recently happened. The other thing is everyone pays to be a part of the group. Everyone, I use that budget to spend on them. Like,
Yeah.
we might go get a suite at the Nuggets game or whatever and like hang out, but like everyone's bought in financially.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. No, that's I've seen other mastermind groups and things like that start off really strong and then they kind of taper off. And I think that the financial commitment, even if it's a marginal amount, right? A financial commitment just has that extra added layer of accountability. It's like
Totally.
when you pay for a gym or you pay for a personal trainer, right? Like you're far more likely to go if you have a trainer than if you just like could come and go as you please at the gym, right?
Totally.
So no, I love it. I was gonna make fun of you offline, but you brought it up. I was like, dude, like where are all the chicks? It's like this is like a bros day. So I love that you now have female team leaders.
Yeah, I mean, and like we had our first one a while back with all of the ladies that joined recently, and the group was way better. Like,
yeah.
And they were like, please don't stop being your weird boys. Like, we want you to be weird and boys, and we just want you to not change a thing. We can handle you. Because that was some of the guys' concern. Like, oh, we have to like clean up the language and they were like, no, like just be you. And which is it's just true. Like, women don't want that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was awesome. Like, everyone's just themselves and comfortable, and And now there's like because a lot, two of these team leaders, their whole teams are women, like,
Yeah.
and which is funny because when I first started my team, it was mostly guys, and now it's like mostly women. Like it's like not mostly, but it's like swung a little bit. I think the first girls that we interviewed, agents to be on the team, they were like scared. They were like, "Oh my god, I don't want to be the only girl on your team."
Ours was the opposite. It was like all females, and then like my husband, and then like when we started bringing in males, he's like, "Yes, finally!" Like,
Yeah, right.
so it's just funny how that kind of works out sometimes. Okay, so I'm gonna hit you with one last question,
Okay.
and it is about food. If it were your last meal on Earth, what would you be eating?
Honestly, like it's not going to be that exciting. It'd be pizza.
Awesome. Pizza is actually a pretty common answer that I get to this question. What kind of is it? A specific topping or style that's your thing?
Detroit style pizza with
Okay.
old style pepperoni.
All right. I like it. That's like the square, right?
Square,
Yeah.
like, and then it's the little cupping pepperonis.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I don't know, like I could honestly eat pizza every meal. Like it's like but I have like a fifth grade level like palate.
Intelligence palette. Okay.
Well, no. I have a fourth grade intelligence, fifth grade
Okay.
palate.
Yeah. 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 Heard. Awesome. No, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate all of your knowledge. It's always a good time when we spend time together. If someone doesn't follow you on social, where would be the best place for them to connect with you?
Instagram, it's just at Jordan Terrell, JordanTerrell.
Awesome.
But yeah, follow me. And I'm
Cool.
trying to build my my stuff. I'm putting a lot of content out there, trying to act smart and stuff like that.
Dude, I love the amount of content you've been putting out. It's awesome. So again, I appreciate you. Can't wait to hopefully see you again sometime soon.
Likewise,
And yeah, you're the best.
totally appreciate you. Thank you for having me and for collaborating with me so often.